Hey everyone, it's Hal. Today let's talk about loopers, but I'm not going to talk specifically about certain kinds of loopers. I'm going to talk about should you use a looper, or why do we have loopers, or how I use a looper, what you can do with a looper. I have a different perspective on loopers because I don't use a looper very much. I got a looper one time because when I was playing a gig, and I was playing, so I'm playing this song, okay, now I just set that loop up, that chord progression, A minor, F, C, G. So I'm playing this song and all of a sudden I'm into the middle part of the song where there's a lead, and with no looper then I can either play the chords. I can't do the chords and the lead at the same time exactly the way I wanted to. So I thought, I'm going to get a looper so that when I play this song I can play the lead when it comes to the lead. Right? And so I can do that kind of a thing. What I used the looper for, and here's my looper, it's the TC Electronic Ditto looper. I got this at a store near my house a few years ago, and I forget what it was, $100 or something like that. And they didn't have the smaller Ditto looper like they have now, the new looper. And it's cheaper, and I probably would have gotten that one because the only thing I wanted it to do was to loop. I just wanted to loop something so that I could do something in the middle of a song, play a lead. And that's really all I cared about at the time. Of course, it's nice if I can add on to the looper, like if I take this loop that I just did. Now let's just add something onto it. So there's that melody that I set up. Now I've been able to add on to that loop. Now I think I can do it more times too. I don't usually use that very much. I know people who do use that when they perform or when they're doing a recording and that kind of a thing. I'm not really into that. And I'll tell you the reason why. A lot of music that I play doesn't have a lot of recurring chord progressions that just go over and over and over forever. Granted, there are songs like this one here that I'm playing. It's called and you can find it on my channel. It's under Quail Studios Cover Songs or something like that. Cover Songs by Quail Studios. And it was written by a friend of mine named Tom, who lives in California. And so this song has that recurring chord progression. But usually what happens is that when we set that up, I don't really like that loop for the lead because that little melody gets in the way of the lead. So if what I do at the beginning I just set it up like that. right? So I just have this chord progression going on with not too much extra like melody or counter melody or something happening in the background. I like that. It gets out of the way of my lead. Now also when I'm playing with the looper, I can explore what scale I'm going to use. Right there, that's the minor Aeolian mode, or the natural minor scale. Works really well for that. I can use the pentatonic scale, starting on the 5th fret, first position. Right, so that's a really good thing. And as you play that, you can just explore where are the notes that I can use with this. So I just went to the 5th position, the 1st position, the 2nd position, and the 3rd position, finding those notes and where they are in that particular song. So I will use a looper to help me out with that. As I'm playing, a lot of times what I'll do is explore different notes, notes that are out of the scale or notes that are out of the pentatonic boxes, so to speak, and find out what works and what doesn't. Another thing that I can do is play a note just one note throughout that whole progression. The progression, remember, is A minor, F, C, and G. So if I play the A note, oops, there it is. So I find out really quick that that A note, of course, goes with the A minor chord, and it goes with the F chord because the notes in the F major chord are F, A, C. The A note is the 3rd in that chord. The A doesn't go in the G, the C chord at all. It's a 6, but it does have an interesting sound like this, right? And then on the G chord, that's either a 9th or a 2nd. To that G chord. So what's interesting is that I can use the A and the G with that chord progression, because I can use the A with the A minor chord and the F chord, the G and the C chord, G and the G chord. Because the G is in the C chord, C, E, G, and the G is in the G major chord, which is G, B, D. So we can just explore that by ear, which is a good thing to do, especially if you don't know your notes or you don't know what goes along with it. Or you can just do a very simple lead with 2 notes, or maybe 3 notes, right? Of course, when you get to a chord that doesn't work with a note, right, and it clashes, that's a C note, right? With that G chord, it clashes, it goes with the A minor chord, F, A, C, C is in that chord, C is in the C chord, but then when you get to the G chord, you have to go somewhere else. And then back up to the C again. So you can explore those notes, what do I do? So that's what a looper is really good for. I find music to be really boring when it just loops the same thing over and over. I don't like that. I really like music that is very diverse. I've been studying the Goldberg Variations by Bach, J.S. Bach, and Glenn Gould played these. Now Glenn Gould is a pianist, And he played or recorded the Goldberg Variations for his first recording in his career, and he recorded the Goldberg Variations for the last recording in his career before he passed away. He was a Canadian pianist, by the way. Quite eccentric. I like him a lot. He plays very well. His first recording of the Goldberg Variations were faster. I don't think they were as intimate. I don't think they were as thoughtful. His last recording, well, the second recording that he did of the Goldberg Variations 25 years later, I thought was very, very good. I really like it. And you can find it on YouTube. You can find both of those. The thing about the Goldberg Variations, there are 32 variations. There is a theme, and then there are variations after that. Maybe there's 31 variations and a theme. The theme is sometimes called the aria. So let me play a little bit of it for you now. Just a little bit of the aria. And then I will play this first variation, and we'll talk about it just for a second. So here is the aria. There's the aria. I kind of messed up on that a little bit. Now let's turn over to the variation 1, and I'm going to play a little bit of that for you, and then we'll talk about it. There you go. What I wanted to point out is that the aria, which is the theme for the whole thing, sets up a chord progression for us to listen to. And then the first variation, while it doesn't actually sound the same at all, the chord progression is the same. And this happens through the whole Goldberg Variations. You can hear all of the variations are different. Very different, vastly different. But the chord progression stays the same throughout the whole thing. That's what's fascinating about it. Bach was just a genius about that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of music I really, really love. I love music that doesn't repeat incessantly the whole time. So to sum up, what I use the looper for more than anything else is for practice, and also for figuring out where in a song I can record as I'm playing it. For instance, here's a song that I do. It's called Too Little Too Late. So what I was doing is I was recording that introduction, because when I get to the middle part, I play the lead. And what I like to do is I like to do the loop during my performance, because sometimes I'll do it a little faster, sometimes I'll do it a little bit slower. I've actually been in a band before where we had a drum machine. This was way back in, I think about like 1982 or something. And the band was called Pride. And we had me, which was, I played the bass and the guitar and the keyboards, and I would switch off depending on what we did. And there was another fellow who played guitar and bass, and so we would switch off. He was a singer, I was a singer, and his wife was the lead singer, and she played the tambourine and a couple of other things, but didn't really play an instrument. So he and I were the only ones really playing. And so he had a drum machine set up, and we had to play every song exactly the same every night because the drum machine, I mean, he had it programmed and everything, but it did the same drum beat all the time. So you always had to play at the same speed. But what I found out is that as we play, if we're doing solo gig or something else and you need a looper for something, I like to loop during the performance so that you capture the actual feel of that particular performance. That it's not just generic to every performance that you ever do. It makes things more special that way. All right, that's all I'm going to do. So that's how I use my looper. I don't like to, use it extensively, but how do you use a looper? Do you like to use a looper? Put in the comments below how you like to use a looper. I'd love to hear about it. And thanks for coming here. I have a Patreon page if you'd like to come over there and check it out. I don't think there's anything else we need to talk about. We'll just talk to you later. Okay? Thanks for being here.